All right, so um, let me get back to Zoom. Okay. Now, let me see. I think we'll go live in about 2 or 3 minutes,
Okay.
and then yeah. Let me get back to
How will we know we live? Will we be able to see anything?
no. It's live now because I'm hearing it come through. Let me see. So I'm actually gonna have to. I think we'll go live in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
And then no, that's the that's the live now. So I'm trying
How
to.
will we know we live? Will we be able to see anything?
No, it's live now because I'm hearing it come through. Let's see. So I'm actually gonna have to. Okay, I think. Where am I hearing that from? I think we'll go live in about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay. No, that's the live now. So I'm trying to.
How will we know we live? Will we be able to see anything?
No, it's live now because I'm hearing it come through. Now, my challenge is I have to figure out how to not hear backplay. Okay, I think. Where am I hearing that from? Okay, I got it. Um, I was hearing, I had it up and didn't realize that it was up. So we are about a minute from going live. We have a couple of folks with us already. And yeah, I was hearing it from the church page, church website, I should say. So there's a few people that are already on the church website. There are, let me see how many people. There are people. All right, so we are up and running. I had just some challenges with making sure that I had everything right. It is 7 o'clock, and we're going to have a discussion tonight about marriage. So, Deacon and Deaconess Kelly were at the church, didn't get the alert that we were all virtual tonight, and so they they are on their way home to join us um, on Zoom. And so when they join us, they will just pick up in the conversation where we pick up. So I want to have our panelists with us tonight. Introduce yourselves, and in addition to introducing yourselves, have you give us um, how long you've been married. And so I'll start with Lady Talita, and if you will introduce yourself for people who will be watching and listening in tonight.
I'm Talita Grayton, and been married to Pastor Frankie Grayton for 32 years.
All right. We also have um, a couple of other panelists with us, and if you all will introduce yourselves and tell us how long you've been married.
We are Craig and Carol Marshall, and we've been married for 36 years.
All right. Thank you. Now, when it comes to marriage, I want us to have a regular conversation tonight, not one that is really superficial or any of those types of things. So I want us to have a conversation that, even though there's going to be people listening to us tonight, to talk about marriage from a very real perspective, because sometimes people get this false idea of what marriage is all about. And so we have some pre-written questions that we're going to walk our way through. Again, Deacon Kelly and Deaconess Kelly will join us as they are making their way to get home. And so I don't want to belabor the time. Let me do one other thing, which is to, and I will be looking for those of you all who are online. I'm going to be looking to see if you are asking questions and trying to figure out what we should do. Let me mute that. Okay. And so we'll be looking to see if you have questions and input from what we're talking about. So there is a list of questions that we will be working our way through, and where is that list again? I feel discombobulated, but I think I'm okay. Okay, here's the list. All right. It's been a long time since I've been in here trying to manage all this stuff with YouTube and Zoom and all of that. All right. So, Sister Carol, when you were looking for a spouse, what were the characteristics that you were looking for? Or did you have a list back when you were entertaining Craig or whoever before Craig? Did you have a list of characteristics that you were looking for?
I didn't give it a lot of thought because I didn't think marriage was something that I wanted to do. I had the attitude that being with that one person every day that's just too much, way too much for me. So I guess I would have looked for someone that was loving and protective, someone that, had the same interests. But really, I didn't give it a lot of thought because I didn't think it was something I would do.
Okay. All right. How about you, Mr. Marshall?
Me, on the other hand, I didn't have a list, but I had an idea of what I wanted. I met Carol years ago. I mean, I was knee high to a duck, and I had my eyes on her from the start. So at the time, we wasn't even dating. But I was talking to a buddy of mine. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna marry that girl. You know her?" I said, "Yeah, I know her. I grew up with her." And
Right.
so I knew she had some good qualities about her. I didn't think she was a round way girl, and I know she was intelligent. So, and I knew the family background pretty much. So I had like an inside track of what I was looking for.
Okay.
So, I was looking. I was definitely looking, and I popped that question, and I got the answer.
All right. And as they say, the rest is history.
Absolutely.
Lady Toledo, did you have a list of qualities or characteristics that you were looking for?
I didn't have one written down, but I just had like a mental checklist. I wasn't saved at the time, so spirituality wasn't key, but I just wanted somebody who was a good person, of course, somebody who wasn't, as we used to say back then, a thug or somebody who was always in trouble with the law and that kind of thing. Somebody who was hardworking and who I knew would love me and take care of me and, You know, if we had children, I had a daughter at the time, and just, you know, me and my daughter, who was willing and able to take care of us, and wouldn't be somebody who would, you know, run around on me and stuff like that. So those were kind of that was the mental checklist that I had.
So it sounds like from you all, as we talk about, well, today there's a lot of people who have this idea of the list that you need to have and your negotiables and your non-negotiables and all of that type of stuff. It sounds like in your dating, you've been both all married over 30 years. So 30 some years ago, that wasn't highly stressed, or it just wasn't one of your focus. You weren't really focused on it back then.
I wasn't really focused on it. I
Okay.
really wasn't focused on it. Not until I actually got with Craig and I saw that, okay, he's serious about this relationship. So either I need to get serious or back out. So I got serious.
Yeah,
Okay.
because she was running at first. I had to run her down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had friends who had lists, but mine was just more mental. I didn't have anything written down. He had to make this much money. He had to be this
Yeah.
tall. He had to, you know, all this kind of thing. And of course there was some non-negotiables. One of them for me, which is kind of funny. I'm a light sleeper, so I didn't want anyone who snored. That was a deal breaker, really, because I just can't. I have to get sleep, so I can't. I was like, either you would have to get help for it, or we just wouldn't be able to date. But that, and somebody who I felt would run around on me, that was one of my biggest things. So
That was one of your biggest fears.
yes, one of my biggest turnoffs. Yeah, somebody who, you know, would cheat, or and somebody who snored.
Well, I
Okay.
did also think that he needed to be tall, but well.
I killed that. I killed that thought. No.
You tall in spirit.
Yes.
So let me look at when you think about marriage. And Carol, how many years you say y'all been married?
36.
36 years. So when you look back through the 36 years of being married, what do you enjoy most about being married?
I like having my best friend with me every day. I like our jokes. We joke around with each other a lot, and sometimes it get a little rough, but it's fun. And then I like having someone there that I can lean on when I'm having my meltdowns. He's there, he lifts me up, or if someone has absolutely gotten on my last nerve and he needs to bring me back down, then he's there for that. He's my rock.
Good, good. How about you, Lady Salida? You got the finest man in the world. He is just absolutely a dream to be around. What do you enjoy about being married the most?
I think, I think the most is, companionship. A lot of what Carol was saying, somebody to have with you, a friend to talk to through all your ups and your downs, and somebody to do life with,
Mhm.
who loves you, and not just who loves you unconditionally, not just somebody who will be there and then throw you away in one moment when things are rough, but somebody who's willing to dig in their heels and really support and encourage and love, and yeah, to do all of that with.
All right. How about you, Mr. Marshall?
Carol, she can dance, man. So it used to be I used to have to try to keep up on the dance floor. I was like, oh man, she she's shaking that leg. I gotta try to keep up and at least look good. So I did look good because I was with her, right?
Okay.
But having fun. At one point in time, it wasn't that way because she doesn't care for football. So me coaching football and being out there working midnights at the time, we were really going different directions. So as we started doing more things together, the camaraderie built better, so she can finish some of my thoughts and I can finish her thoughts. And sometimes it's dangerous, but yeah, we have a good camaraderie now. And that was built on. It wasn't a thing that started early.
We're good. We have Deaconess Kelly, Phaedrus Kelly, and her husband, John Kelly. You can all unmute yourself and introduce yourselves to everybody that's watching tonight. And I know y'all had to race home, so if you need a minute to gather yourself and to kind of relax getting in the door, I completely understand.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all want to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm John Kelly. Again, we've been married for 21 years.
I'm Phaedrus Kelly, and I have the honor of being married to John Kelly. We have been married for, like he said, 21 years. He spent a good portion of that time that we were married away in the military. He was in the Navy, so it was oftentimes that he was not actually in the home, although we were able to work through all of that and stay in love and stay married.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I'm glad to be here tonight.
Good. I'm glad y'all are here too. So y'all can, this is just an informal conversation. We got a bunch of people listening to us, but we just want to talk about marriage from a very realistic place, where we're talking about the ups and the downs and the ins and outs of being married. And hopefully that someone who, particularly as we're moving towards Valentine's Day, who longs to be in a long lasting relationship can learn something or hear something tonight that helps them in their thought processes. So, we were just dealing with, what do you enjoy most about being married, Faye or John?
Okay, so for me, I would say the companionship, knowing that I have somebody in my corner, somebody who is behind me, someone who supports me and is there to protect me, and just all around being able just to have that someone that I've grown to be very much in love with. Being able to know that whatever comes our way, that we can work through it together.
John, she says she in love with you.
I love it. I love it, Pastor.
What about you? What you love about being married?
Well, what I like about being married is, companionship. The friendship that we have, that we can talk about anything together. Also, where to the point where the sacrifices that we go through, and how we, even though sacrifices it don't always feel good, but it's helping the other person what needs to be done. So I just love it where we can, I can come home to a ready cooked meal. My wife. One thing about my wife, she makes sure I'm taken care of. Even though I call her before I come home and say, "Hey, baby, what you cook?" You're like, "That's all you call me for." To find out what you're gonna eat, but not just that, but just to check on her as well. So I just love being married to her. She brings a lot of joy to me, not only her but my daughter as well. So,
and I also like the fact that I can tease him and play with him and laugh and just get on his nerves, but he knows that's what I'm going to do. So it's like he just let it roll off his back.
Right.
So sometimes I can be a nuisance.
You're not
Yeah.
the only one.
Yes.
That's only basically when he being too quiet. I'm like, okay,
Right.
do I need to start picking?
Right.
Yeah.
So inevitably, if you married any time, any length of time, you have some times that life is really good in your marriage, that you have things go really well for you, but then you also go through some seasons when you're down. And um, I'll let Craig or Carol go first and just talk about perhaps what was one of the hardest seasons in your marriage.
I would say the very beginning of our marriage was the hardest. We weren't one. We were the respect level wasn't there that we have now. We didn't know how to compromise. You know,
Mm,
sometimes it's my way or no way. And like you said earlier, we were just going our separate ways. So those were the hardest years, learning how to come together and be one.
okay. How about you, Craig?
Yeah, it was moments where, like I said, when I was coaching and was gone a lot of time from the house, um, when and then if we had Laura had arguments, I would get in my corner and ask that she stay in her corner. Um, don't talk to me. I'm not gonna talk to you, and it would be weeks at a time. Sometimes that would go by before we're back again. Most and again with that, working midnights at the time and coaching. So we was missing each other. When I come in the house, she was going out the door, and when she was coming in, I was leaving out. So we would miss each other. So we didn't have that type of connection there that we should have had.
Yeah, and it was so bad that it got to the point where I would ask him, well, when are you taking vacation? So I'll know when not to take mine. And
Wow.
and we took our vacations separately because I just didn't want to be in the house with them for a full week or go anywhere for a full week with him.
Mm,
And those were hard times, rough times.
yeah. Wow. I'm gonna get to how you got past it, but I think it's important to have people hear that because they see you down the line, in your case 36 years later, and think it's always been sweet, like you've always enjoyed being around each other. Um, and that's just we've endured. We've made it through them seasons. Now Lady Talita, people got great idea of their pastor, so don't tell them too much. When
Well, you
when
can
was
tell it. I don't have to
when
say it. You can
when
answer the
you
question.
you
Go
got your
ahead.
own version of it, but talk about when was the hardest season in marriage, or describe some, because my thought on it and yours may not be the same as to when it was that time that was hardest. So talk about when it was really hard being married.
Similar to what the story Carol told, when after we had Courtney and you would go to the office and stay long, long, long hours. And back then you were playing basketball and doing all other kinds of stuff, and you would be out working. I don't think you had a business then, right at that time, but you would be working a lot. You might have think you got laid off from the plumbing business. And so you were in your hustle, right in the middle of your hustle, working a lot and playing basketball, playing flag football and all kinds of stuff. And it was a point where I felt like a single parent. And it was very, very hard. I felt like, get the kids to school, get them home, help with homework, try to cook dinner and all of that, by myself. So that was really tough. And I felt like you didn't spend enough time in the house. And so you know, I would get mad and refused to do certain things. And we would have the same argument and same conversation. We used to always say, just put the tape in and let it play. We don't even have to say the words again. Just put the tape in, let it play.
Right.
And that's the argument, because it was the same thing every time. So I felt like that was the hardest time. And when the word divorce actually came up, it was kind of shocking for both of us. But those were the hard times, and thank God that we made it through.
Yeah, I do. I thought about the question earlier, and I think the thought that I had was when we did not have understood expectations of one another. I thought that's when the season was just hard. So you had expectations of me. I didn't necessarily know all of your expectations, and I certainly wasn't agreeing to all of your expectations. And then I had expectations of you that you didn't necessarily know. And so I think it was really difficult in those early years because we both had expectations of one another that we did not always know, nor had we agreed to the expectations. So you having an expectation that I was going to help you raise our kids, it's like, I ain't agree to that. I'm young. I'm 25, 26, 27. I want to play basketball, and I'm good at basketball. So in my mind, it's like, I'm not doing that wrong because I want to play basketball 3 times a week, But then I just remember when push came to shove and we had real meaningful conversations, and I think we both began to say, okay, what do you want from me so that I can begin to meet your expectations and do the things that you're expecting me to do? And that was kind of the turning point. We'll get to really how we got through that later, but I do remember that we were both miserable with each other, and the arguments were just continual. It's like we didn't argue every day, but we were arguing regularly.
Yeah.
And I think both of us were just miserable because, and I think the other side of it was neither one of us had come from a healthy marriage. So we were trying to do something that we hadn't seen anybody do. At least I hadn't seen, I had no reference point for a healthy marriage, no reference point for what a good husband looked like. So trying to do something that I had never seen anybody do was, I think, made it hard also.
And we did not have proper preparation. So, we
Right.
had
Yeah.
one or
I think
think
our
it was
pastor
maybe
did. Yeah.
one session or 2 sessions maybe, and it was like,
Yeah.
okay, y'all saved, so y'all gonna be all right. And
Right. Yeah.
that was not the case. So
Right. Yeah.
that
I
was
think he.
the wrong
I think he did.
answer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 I think he did the best he could. At the time, that was as best as he could do. But we certainly, with what we know now, walked into marriage unprepared. Faye, you talked about how John being away in the Navy was hard. Was that the hardest part of you think in your 21 years?
I would say yes, because with him being gone, sometimes it would be like pretty much maybe a year. He may come back for a couple of days, maybe a week or two. And then he still was doing a large portion of it. He still was located in Norfolk, and we were here in Maryland. So it was like whenever he came back home for a substantial period of time, it was like me and Jay, we had our routines. She was still in the bed up till like 8 years old, and he would come in and he thinking, I felt like we had what we had, and it was like, we don't know you. That's not what we do. And I just felt like he's coming in, he's messing up the rhythm, and I don't like it because generally I'm in charge. I get to do what I do, and that's the way it goes. You don't get to discipline or tell her to go in your room. It was just like hard because I felt like he was being very mean about things. And it was just hard for me to just not be in control. because I
Mhm.
still knew that when he left, I still was going to be in control. And like First Lady said, I had to run here and there. I had to go make sure I get you from daycare all the time. I was just rushing all the time. Make sure we get the cheerleading practice, make sure we get to competitions. It was just so much work. And I felt like he didn't really understand that. And when you come home, I don't need you to come in here and tell us what to do because we know what to do. So it was just
Right.
hard just adjusting, even though it
Right.
was just like day to day was my day to day.
Okay. John, was it part of it? Well, I guess you got a different perspective because you were out of the
The
house
Mr.
and
Link.
during the Navy and doing your responsibility as an officer in the Navy. So, but you may have a different perspective. So, what's your perspective on when a hard season in your marriage?
Yeah, pretty much. Faye kind of pretty much explained it on Pastor. A lot of times, because I was pretty much, I want to say 85 to 90% gone, other than when I get stationed, you know, in the area. And when I get stationed in the area, I try to do all I can, with what I had, during the time I was there, and yeah, we used to have a lot of arguments about, because, I see some things that she didn't see because of she was always with Jay. So when it came down to Jalen, and the discipline area, a woman and she doing the woman thing. I'm trying to do the man thing because I know there's a hard life out there. And I always wanted my daughter to know that, it's not peaches and cream, because Faye was the kind that feeling type thing. I wasn't that feeling type thing. You're gonna do this, and that's it. It ain't no, pleading or whatever. Because again, I know she used to try to get over on Faye because of that bond that they had, and but when it came down to me, and I'm seeing it, I tries to make the change, and Faye struggled with it because of it was like I was an outsider, because I wasn't there all the time. But
Right.
I just try to do what I can when I was there. But again, yeah, we struggled with a lot of times when it came down to, that disciplinary, when it came down to our child and so forth. So
Okay. So if I'm hearing all of y'all right, it ain't been roses the whole time. It ain't been a bed of roses the whole time.
No.
No.
When you think about young people who want to be married, they're thinking about being married. What if you could give a young person, maybe a woman or a man, some advice on marriage? What would be the advice you'd give to a single person who's looking to be married, or do you think they have misunderstandings about being married or whatever? So what advice would you give a young person who is interested in being married?
I think I would advise them to go through marriage counseling. I wish we had. I think that would help you to learn some things about yourself and your partner. So it'll let you know if you're ready or not.
Okay.
I think they should also go into it knowing that marriage is a commitment and it takes continuous work.
Yeah.
It's never ending work. Good work though.
Yeah. Yeah. You're never done working on your marriage.
You're right. You're never done.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah. Get to know the person that you're marrying or you feel that you like to marry. Knowing their background, family makeup. A lot of times they go into it really with blinders on because you see a product that's unfinished really, but you see that's the product that you want. So you're not inquiring, what the background is like, because this is what you want. So you blindsided in some way going into it. So I would ask that I really think they should really get to know who the person is. And like Carol was saying, definitely get counseling before they say I do, because you'll find some things out that you really didn't know of that person. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
So I would also say, I would tell them to make sure that they know the Lord, that they're saved. Pay attention to red flags. If it's something that you know is not right, just leave it alone. Don't try to fix anybody. Certainly, the marriage counseling is good, and for them to understand that marriage is a covenant, and that you have a covenant between, God, and that you can make it in your marriage, and not to give up, always fight for your marriage. And just to remind them that marriage is not easy, and it's not meant to be easy, because like we all know, you grow and the seasons change, different parts of your life. You don't always stay the same. Although you're the same person, you change as you grow because of your experiences. So don't expect your person that used to be okay with, childish things, when they get older, it's a different ballgame, because it's a lot of seriousness that comes with being married and being responsible and leading your family, and just, being one.
Yeah. Yeah. We got married at 25 and married for 30 some years now. We're not the same people. So you got to be prepared for the person that you're married to change. It's like something's wrong if you marry someone in their 20s and 15 years later, you expect them not to have matured and to evolve over 15, 20, 30 years. Yes, physically it's the same person, but emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, they're not the same person. They've learned, right? I'm not married to the same Talita that I got married to 30 something years ago. She's a different woman, and I do think that that's a major piece. Um, Talita and John, y'all have any piece that you would add to that?
Also, too, when it comes down to marriage, when you marry somebody, you also marry their history.
Right.
Because a lot of times, you never get to know a person fully. But again, when you marry them, you start to find out some other things that you didn't find out when you was dating, and sometimes that's a struggle, because why I didn't know this before, because some people look at it this way: if I know that before, maybe never would have married you. So you got to be careful, because again, I'm just gonna use this as an example. Not saying I would have never married my wife, but when it came down to debt, you married into all of that. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
if you didn't know about that debt,
Amen.
you know now, so you married him, you're gonna be part of that. So again, but we worked it out. The good thing about it, we worked it out, we made it work, and we took care of it. But again, also too, when you're trying to change somebody, sometimes you might need to change yourself. You're trying to change that person, but sometimes, because my wife used to say, you cheap, right? We used to go to the same place, get some ice cream, some fried ice cream. The ice cream like $5 or something. I was like, I know it's a sale somewhere else, right?
Right.
You so cheap, right? And then I thought about it, I'm looking like, how somebody don't know how to manage money gonna call somebody cheap, right? So these how I was looking at things. But again, my wife is much better now,
Right.
Her weakness now, that was one of her weakness when it came down to money. Because Faye was the type that if I see it, I don't care how much it is, I'm gonna buy it.
Right.
I wasn't like that, so I had to show her you don't save money like that.
Right.
My car dirty. I'm getting a new one.
So yeah, that was fake. Hey, she'd get a new car a year. She had a chance, So again, I had to break that down. I had to show her another way on how to do things, and that's what marriage is all about. You see it, you take part in it and try to help fix that. So, but other than that,
Yeah.
All right, I
Good.
see me and Faye had something in common when we got married.
He's a
Debt.
mess.
But yeah, I would also say make
The
sure
money was
you
just gone out of our account.
similar to what Craig, what you say? I missed
I
that.
said the money
What'd you
was
say?
just gone out of our account.
No, he'll be like, okay, we're gonna pay. I'm gonna pay this off, and you're gonna close it. I'll be like, how you gonna close my stuff? They got a sale. He'd be like, that ain't no sale.
Well,
They
we
give me
were different.
coupons. He'd be like, no, they don't give you coupons. No.
Well, we were pretty opposite. I was the one that watched, and he was the spender. Just go
Mm.
spend. I was like, okay, we are together. We've always had our finances together from day one. So I'm saying we have to communicate. When you go, you can't just go all willy-nilly and spend up a bunch of money. And then when I'm looking at the account wondering what the heck happened, you know,
Right.
we had
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to just add a bit to Craig's point on knowing the person that you're marrying. Make sure your spiritual, emotional, physical, all those areas are aligned before you marry somebody. Don't be unequally yoked,
Yeah.
as the Bible says. Make sure that the person that you are marrying is in line with what you believe. Don't go by their looks and how much money they make and what they have and all of that, because all of that can fade away. All that can be gone. And then what are you left with, And if you're not spiritually aligned, you're going to have a lot of issues. You want to go to church, they don't want to go. You want to be further in God, they don't, even care about the Lord. So just make sure you're not unequally yoked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm looking at Alan's comment on YouTube. He's saying that he was married for 15 years and you don't always know the person like you think. So I do know that it's been more good in marriage than bad, and those bad seasons feel like they're never going to end. It just feels like, are we ever going to um are you ever going to get through that series, through that season? What what do you know now in marriage? Faye and John, y'all can start with this. What do you know now in marriage that you wish you had known going into marriage?
I would say for me, I wish I knew how hard could be, and just to kind of be prepared. Because, early in your marriage, especially when you're in your 20s, it's easy to shut down and just like, I ain't talking, he done got on my nerves. But that's just not the way to do it. So just knowing that you need to communicate more. And that's one of the things that we did not really do a lot. Instead, we would internalize how we felt and never shared like what the issue is, like especially for me, but for John, we could be upset about something and I'm still upset the next day, but he's like nothing happened. And I'm like, this dude is weird. Like he's done. He's already done with it. And I feel like that would make me feel like you don't really care how I'm feeling. But I think he thought that why are you still mad? Because that's over. But just knowing that you can communicate about things, it may not be at that moment, but when the time is right, when you prayed or when you've cooled down, it's a good time to discuss it and figure out how to get past it instead of letting that hold up your happiness or your joy just being around that person. Just give them the opportunity and give them grace because we need it as well. So I just think just to be able to remember to communicate and not just stay mad about something, because nothing is the end of the world. It didn't stop anything.
Right. Okay. Um, John, is there anything you wish you knew going in?
Well, there's a lot of sacrificing that you do in a marriage. And I didn't know how much sacrificing that you will do going into a marriage. And it been times that you wanted to do something, but then, you know, the other person had something they had to do too. So now you got to put your stuff on a sideline just to make sure that they are taken care of. That was a lot that I had to do. So, but again, I wasn't thinking about that before I got married, you know, that this was stuff that I had to go through. And like Faye was saying too, is, you know, I'm that type of person that I'm a forgiving person. I say it that way. You know, I don't like walking around mad. That's one thing I don't like, because it's uncomfortable. It don't feel good, you know. And so that's why both of us mad at each other, you know. I'm gonna do my best to try to, you know, do what I can to, you know, clean it up or whatever, you know, apology or whatever. But, you know, Faye just, you know, at times just want to be mad, you know. So, you know, but, you know, how they say, you ain't gonna steal my joy, you know. And I'm like, nah, we ain't doing that, Faye, you know. So we gotta fix it. If I gotta hug you and grab you and kiss you for a long time, and you know, I'm gonna do whatever I can, because I don't like it. It don't feel
She's
good.
still shaking her head no.
Yeah.
I try to give them breaks now, but before, yeah, I mean, like, short conversation, all of that.
Right. Just
Answer the question.
whatever I say to it, yeah, that's it. I ain't gonna elaborate.
Right.
I ain't gonna do nothing else.
And that comes with actually growing and just knowing that it's no reason to act like that, because you say you care about the person. Why are you treating them that way?
Yeah. Carol Pender says, a lot of times we forget to think in terms of we instead of me. And I do think that's a major lesson for us to implement. Talita, you have something that if you knew going in, you wish you had known going in?
I wish I had known how much the Lord would prune me and work on me, because I probably would have submitted to it a lot earlier. How much he wanted to prune me and work through me and change me through the marriage process, the marriage journey. Because I always say now that my marriage has been the most proving ground ever. Has been the place where I've changed the most, that has helped me change the most, that has helped me grow the most, has helped me mature the most in Christ. So I think if I had known going, if the Lord said, I'm going to use this to prune you, to mature you, to grow you, I probably would have said, oh, okay. You know, at least I would have known that's what was happening. And I probably would have submitted to it a lot sooner. But I thank God for the pruning and the changing and the growing and the maturing that I eventually gave into and said, Lord, I know you using this to do something in me, so I'm going to let you have your way. I'm not going to fight it, because I fought a lot of it by being mad, by, you know, not wanting to change, not wanting to do better. So, yeah.
Mr. Marshall, anything you wish you had known going in?
Yeah, I wish I had known the Lord. Going in. Yeah. I gave my life to Christ early on, in the 80s. But I wasn't in church because I was working all the time, didn't have the days off on Sundays. That's one reason, but didn't utilize the time that I had even when I had the time. So knowing the Lord makes a difference. Having the Lord in your life, in your relationship, makes a whole world of difference. And being able to not stay angry, you know, as a covenant, you know, I think that helped me a lot. You know, reverting back to covenant, and be willing to, you know, even if it's times where I felt that I wasn't wrong, you know, if it's going to settle the waters, just give in. And knowing the Lord is big factor for me in our marriage. And it's taking time. It's taking time.
How about you, Carol?
That was pretty much my answer. I really, truly wish I had known the Lord. I believed in God, but I wasn't fully committed to God. So I hadn't really given my life to Christ. So I know our marriage would have been completely different had we known the Lord from the beginning.
Yeah. That leads me to the next question that I have. And how has having a spouse of faith impacted your marriage? How has your husband or wife being a person of faith, what impact has that had on your relationship?
Well, now God is our foundation. So we're being guided by him. So that helps put everything in perspective. We're sharing the same beliefs and values. So that helps put everything in perspective, and it makes it a lot easier. Not perfect, but easier. A lot easier.
Yeah.
Me knowing that my wife is a lady of faith, I know she prays for me, she prays for us, and not going to bed angry. It's very important. You have argument, and it might be a big argument, but you got to be willing to forgive and compromise. I think that's one thing that there's no such thing as marriage is 50-50.
Right.
Sometimes it's 30-70, 20-80, and it's not always in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
So being willing to compromise in your relationship is very important. Saying no, I ain't giving in. That's just going to extend that anger, and the marriage ain't going anywhere. So I think it's very important that you be willing to give in, even if you think you're right, and be willing to give in and compromise the situation so you can move forward.
Right. John and Faye.
Okay, so I would say, like even dating John, I already had like certain things that, where I was in my life. And then when I met him, it was just like the icing on the cake, because even though he was already, this was pre-J, he was already in the military, and we would talk on the phone, and we would like read the Bible together. Like we would be reading and then we would discuss it. So I knew that, his heart was there, even though he wasn't where I was, but we could still talk about the word and share the word, what we read or whatever. So I think just knowing him, I didn't know the pre-John, that the bad John. I knew the good John that was already walking the right direction. So just with him already there, it was like I still have to go forward with where I am, because this is what we are. This is who we are. And he just never wavered from what he believed in. So I just think because of that, it just continued to allow us to grow together.
Good. Deacon Kelly, how about you?
Yeah, for me, just seeing how my wife has studied to show herself approved, and how she, my wife a prayer warrior, seeing people call her and needing prayer, all of that right there. I was like, yeah, I know if I'm going through something, I can depend on my wife to help me get through it, when it comes down to prayer and so forth. But just being in the house and us studying together and we asking questions and so forth, I mean, it makes a difference in the household. When going through our trials and tribulations, just as an example, I remember out doing our taxes time, and they audited us for whatever reason, and
I'm
so they,
stressed.
so they sent something to us talking about all the money that we owe. So my wife losing her mind, But again, I'm like, baby, don't worry about it. We got this. We gonna take. I make sure we get this taken care of. But again, knowing God and knowing God is not out to hurt us in any kind of way. Again, after we start getting the things taken care that we need that they was asking for, we didn't have to come out the pocket with anything. But again, I had to make sure she was fine because she's like, I don't want to go to jail.
Right.
So we ain't going to
Right.
jail, girl.
Right.
So again, right. So I had to thank God that I'm the type of person that I know that God is never going to leave us nor forsake us. But at the same time, sometimes our faith get weak. We got to make sure that we build each other up when it comes down to that by His word. So again, I thank God that I'm able to go in His word, get something from His word, so I can share it when it comes down to her. My wife got a lot of anxiety when it comes down to certain things, and I got to be the one that let her know it's gonna be okay.
Yeah. Lady Talita, you knew me when I wasn't saved. You saw me getting saved and being transformed and learning how to be sanctified and all of that. Is there what have you witnessed or seen, and what's your impression of having a husband that's saved compared to well, I was always saved from the time we got married, but you dated me when I wasn't saved. So, um, what's your input on that?
I just want to say that I believe having a spouse of faith helps all around because you know that the Holy Spirit is in your spouse. And so if there's an argument, say, Lord, convict both of us, convict him, whatever needs to happen in order for us to get back on track. I know that you're being led by the Spirit when it comes to our household and anything else that's going on. And just to know that our household is covered, and every part of it is covered, and especially that the Holy Spirit lives within, and the Holy Spirit is going to lead, guide, and direct in all ways, especially, in the rough times, and, in the good times, but just knowing that the Holy Spirit is there.
Um, I wanna get to asking
You're not
for
answering any questions. Can you
I'm
answer?
not answering any questions.
Oh, he didn't answer that one.
I'm focused on facilitating, but I can answer the question. I think you were a good person all the time. I just don't think um, our marriage certainly wouldn't be the same if you weren't saved and weren't not just saved in a churchgoer, but really trying to live guided by the Spirit. Um, I think that's really true for you because life has been so driven for me. Most of my adult life, I've been chasing something, chasing being good at being a plumber, chasing being good at managing a business, and then um, establishing a business that was driven to be one of the top businesses in the city. Now being driven to build up God's church, and now driven to build up another church. And you've been there patiently pushing me, but also dealing with having to share me. And I don't think whether it was sharing me with the business world or sharing me when I was working in St. Louis, and now being a part of God's kingdom, it's taken a lot of sacrifice for you. And I don't think if you hadn't been saved, if you hadn't been a person of faith, I don't know how you would have been able to do all of that. You know, with watching, I think you've made a lot of sacrifice that perhaps the typical person might not have had to make in the typical wife, I would say, wouldn't have had to make um, in her marriage. So I do think it's a big difference. I think the qualities that attracted me to you have always been there. Um, but I do think that you've grown and matured in a way. I think both of us have because we've been saved. I also think it helped us in our commitment to say we made a commitment to God to be married to one another. In fact, I know that if it weren't for the commitment to God and our faith, we wouldn't be married now. That marriage got too hard. In fact, I used to describe it as the commitment to God and the commitment to our marriage covenant was the thin thread that refused to pop. That was all that was holding us together. But that thread was strong enough, even though we tested it to its end, that thread wouldn't break until we got strong again to say, okay, we're not really pushing the limits of our marriage covenant with one another. So, there is this idea, and I don't necessarily want to bash femininity, but I do want to think about the traditional roles of marriage, and like the world is really about non-traditional roles, and the husband having manly stuff to do, and the wife kind of doing the traditional wifely roles. When you all look at marriage, in your marriage of 21 years and 36 years and us at 32 years, how do you handle your marriage? Is your marriage the traditional husband wife, or are you non-traditional in your marriage?
I'll say we're non-traditional, and I say that being that if I see something like laundry need to be done, I'll go ahead and do it. I don't wait for Carol to do it. It's her job. If dishes need to be washed, I'll wash the dishes. If she doesn't feel like cooking, I'll cook. Matter of fact, when the relationship was young, I used to cook all the time, and
That was because I wasn't good at it.
she was learning. My dad actually taught my mother how to cook, and I didn't know I was going to be teaching her how to cook, but I taught her how to cook also. So I have a problem with pushing the broom, washing dishes, washing clothes, things that they say, well, that's what the wife's supposed to do. I don't have a problem with doing that. And I really think some of the younger generation today, they put a stigma out there that I'm not doing that. I'm not washing no dishes. I ain't doing nobody's laundry. Most definitely, I ain't doing that. That's her job. And the woman, I ain't washing no car. I'm not cleaning no car out. All that, that's a stigma that I think some of them have. It's a false sense of belief of what they think it should be.
Go ahead.
For us, it's non-traditional as well. Like I said, anything Faye do, I do. Vice versa. If I see dishes that needs to be taken care of, I got it. Sometimes she'd be like, no, go get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. No, I got you. That's just how I am. If I see something needs to be taken care of, I'll take care of it. Clothes to be washed, I love it. I wash them in a minute. But again, she likes to do it. But again, if I see that, she got something she needs to do, I go ahead and take care of it. folding clothes, whatever it may, whatever needs to happen. We don't look at the traditional side. This is what you're supposed to be doing. No, it's however we can help each other out to make it work, and that's that. I believe in that, cooking, I know how to cook, she know how to cook. So, she beat me cooking. She beat me to the punch in cooking because, I'm at work. So she done already got the food on. It's like, boy, when you get home, you just need to eat and go to bed, So again, it's non-traditional for us. So
So I just look at it like we're a team. So we just help each other to get whatever needs to get done. And I'm grateful that, he had the opportunity to learn to do everything because he had to take care of himself at one point as well. So it's no reason, and then he's not a lazy person. So he's not going to sit back and let me do everything while he just sit around and watch. So with that team thing, even like if it comes to washing cars, he'd be like, well, it's nice outside. Let's go out and wash the cars. It's good to do it together because that's just still time that you're spending with your spouse. So we kind of enjoy like just being able to support one another as a team, come together. When we do it together, it gets done quicker.
Right.
So we're never going to say, oh, you take out the trash because that's the main thing. And like before I said, when he was gone, I had to do all of that. So it's nothing hard. It just helps everybody, not to exhaust one another.
We have a very traditional marriage. My wife ain't cutting no grass.
I ain't cutting no grass.
She ain't washing no car.
No, I ain't washing no car either.
She ain't.
I wash the car.
She ain't.
Because I know I got some help to go back me up with it.
She ain't shoveling no snow. She ain't cleaning no snow off her car.
Not that I never have, but
That stuff you ain't right. I can tell y'all now.
I will.
In 30-some years of being married, I can't think of 10 times that I've washed a load of clothes. She loved washing clothes, so
I like washing dishes.
Yeah, you said 10 times. Yeah, I'm sure I washed clothes when you were pregnant.
I probably had to separate them before we washed them.
I do know how to do a little bit of cooking. I will cook every once in a while, but we have a very traditional marriage in that sense. So there's stuff she does, there's stuff I do, and there's some stuff that we kind of share, paying bills and stuff like that. We might share, but there's kind of a this your lane, this my lane. You do yours, I'm gonna do mine, and it's kind of. But I do think that every couple needs to figure out what works for you, and not come into it with a case of, well, I'm the man, so I got to pay all the bills, or I'm the woman, so I have to do all the cooking, or, that works for us because we figured out, I know that my wife typically ain't an outdoor person. So if it's something that needs to be done around the house and it requires being outside, she ain't gonna do it. So that it's not like I'm complaining that I got to go outside and get the snow off of all our vehicles. I know that if she had her way, she gonna be able to walk outside and just get in the car. She ain't gonna have to go outside and get the snow off of it, or those types of things. So let me look. Yes.
For me, my fear is if I let him do everything, if something happens to him, I feel like I might be lost. So I have to kind of know what's going on with everything that's in the house or with us. So I don't want to be lost.
Right.
Yeah, you have some women who have been in that situation. Something happens to the husband and they're lost. They have no idea what's what. So.
Right. I'm going to ask you all to start giving me your questions, and I'm gonna be paying attention as you all are online. I'll be looking for your questions for us. We got one more question. What biblical truths do you intentionally apply to your marriage? So when you think about the Bible, what principles in your marriage do you intentionally apply?
Being faithful, being respectful, forgiving, um, putting each other's needs before the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Things like that. Working together, just being a team.
Okay.
Yes, and being willing to forgive right away. That's one of my pet peeves. It's in the covenant, and I get angry about something. It used to be, I ain't giving in. She don't come around. I ain't come around. And it'd be weeks then gone by. But I learned after learning the covenant and the covenant of it being married, don't go to bed angry. As a matter of fact, be willing to forgive right away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my truths. I stick to that. And it helps me even in my daily walk with man, not to stay angry. Be willing to forgive right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Faye, John?
I would say love is patient, love is kind, love does not hold grudges. Again, for being selfless, putting his needs above my own, and being mindful of and respectful of him as a man, allowing him to lead and me to just honor his wisdom and to understand that he is trying to guide us or direct us according to God's way. Just continuing to grow together in love so that we can stay in love with one another. So I just think there's making sure that you exercise the kindness and the gentleness, and he, of course, the self-control to make sure that you all can live together and be one flesh.
I think there's something, a scripture saying something about the tongue being the power,
The smallest.
the tongue can be, the tongue is like one of the most powerful things that can cause life or death. And what we say to one another, we gotta watch what we say to one another, because we can scar that person, and sometimes it's hard to recover from that. So again, when I talk to my wife, I gotta choose my words, because again, I think it's somewhere in First Peter, I think it's like the 3rd chapter, 7, talk about the female being the weaker vessel. And again, we gotta guard that, we gotta protect that, because if not, we can tear them down. And a lot of time when we tear them down like that, it's kind of hard to recover from that. So again, we got to be, I'm very careful on my words when I talk to my wife, because of the fact of, they say the Bible speaks about the woman being the weaker vessel. So we got to make sure we take care of that.
Yeah, I love that passage. It's really describing her as fragile,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't throw a crystal goblet into the sink. A plastic cup, I might throw it from 2 feet into the sink because I'm not worrying about it breaking. But that crystal goblet, I'm going to put that down. And so if I treat my wife like she's fragile, then that's what it means when it's saying she's a weaker vessel. Don't treat her like a plastic cup from 7-Eleven. Treat her like she's a fine piece of china in a restaurant or something like that. And so that's a good verse, though. For me, I had to learn that my mouth there were times when I was talking to my wife, not to just share my thoughts, but I was trying to injure her. And that doesn't sound good, but in them early years of marriage, that was true. I was trying to hurt her feelings with the stuff that I said. And I thank God that I learned how to breathe, to really think about what I'm getting ready to say, and to think, am I building up my marriage with saying something intentionally that's hurtful to her? How am I helping my marriage if I'm continually saying hurtful things to her? And hopefully, it doesn't feel like to her that I'm intentionally hurting her. I'm sure I still do, but hopefully it doesn't feel like I'm intentionally hurting her. Whereas before, I didn't care if I was hurting her. I just felt like I got something on my chest. I'm going to get it off and I'm going to say it however I'm feeling it. Um,
Hmm.
but, 30 some years later, I just, that's one of those areas that I've certainly learned to think about what am I doing in this in order for it to last the long haul. So one of those is um, to live like I'm the head of the house, and to treat my wife like she is my wife, but recognizing that I don't want to exacerbate my family. I don't want to make things worse by being domineering over them or like a tyrant over top of when the kids were still here. We're empty nesters now, but to you know be considerate of how she feels and how I'm treating her is one of those biblical principles that I try to pull in. We need to do one more thing, and then we're going to look at some of these questions for them. So, Toledo, I need you to answer, but if you all would think about when you got through that dark season, what was it that helped you to get through that rough season or that dark season? That wasn't a question that I'd given you earlier, but I think that'll be helpful for the panel as we go ahead. So, Toledo, um, what is there biblical truths or principles that you intentionally apply?
I think the biggest one is giving grace.
Okay.
Faye talked about the love is kind, love is patient, and all the attributes of love. And I realized that I love you. I don't want to always be arguing or be mad and all that kind of stuff. So just being forgiven and giving grace,
Okay.
because we're all growing, and I know I need grace. You need grace. All of God's children need grace.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Amen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um, Craig or Carol, when you got through that difficult season, what was the turning point?
For me, the difficult season, like he was saying with the football and the whole us missing each other and not really being together. Well, I started to realize that he was more than just a coach, because I would listen to him talk about the boys and the things that he would do for them. He was sometimes they would have issues in the home and he would handle that, or maybe they needed something. So I realized that he wasn't just a coach, he was a mentor, and in some cases a father figure. So
Right.
I started to feel a little selfish. So that made me kind of sit back and just endure and let him do what he's doing, because somebody else needs him too. So that was kind of a turning point that kind of softened me, watching him help others, and that softened my heart.
Okay. Good.
For me, Pastor, it was Jesus.
That too.
Oh man, it was Jesus. We was at a dead end, and mentioned that word divorce. It was resonating in my mind, and I knew where to go to get the papers and all that, and thought about it, but then it couldn't be nothing else but Lord that brought us together, and we started seeing each other for each other and willing to work with one another. And again, being in the Word, it does help a lot.
Yeah.
Them dark corners, Lord brought light to it. So that helped a lot. And then being willing to make a change, accept responsibility was important, not just on my end, but we shared that, and that was important.
Yeah.
I think that was our turn in our relationship when things started to get better. And like I said, studying God's word really helped. Knowing the biblical way of doing it versus trying to do it the worldly way.
Right.
Mhm.
So we went through, I would guess, somewhere between 3 to 5 years that it was really bad. Um, so yeah, somewhere. You think it's about right, Toledo? Somewhere about, yeah. And I remember we were on my way, on our way home from UDC. My best friend had graduated from college, and we argued from Van Ness campus all the way back to Southeast, and it got bad. Just a bad argument driving from uptown. And she said, Toledo says, we need to go to marriage counseling. And I said, we don't need to go to marriage counseling. And she said, right, you don't need to go to marriage counseling because you know everything. And I said, I don't need to go to marriage counseling, not because I know everything. If you can answer this question, yes, then I'll agree to go to marriage counseling, because for me, the answer is no. Have I done everything that I can to make my marriage work? The answer for me is no. Can you answer yes, that you've done everything you can when you know you needed to do it to make our marriage work? She said no. So if you know you haven't tried to make our marriage work, and I know I haven't tried the best that I can to make our marriage work, why do I need to go to a counselor for them to tell me that I'm not trying? Let's give this 90 days. I'm going to try my best. You try your best. And if nothing gets better in 90 days, then we can go to counseling. That was the day it turned, because from that time we both made an effort to do the best that we could, and we still had rocky periods, but we both got to a place where we're saying, yeah, I'm going to give it everything I got. And there are times when I know what the marriage needs, but I'm not going to do all that. I'm not going to do what I know you want me to do. I'm not going to do what you need me to do because I don't feel like doing that. The moment we turned from that to say, I'm going to bring my all into this marriage, it turned. How about you want to add anything to that, Talita?
I think you hit the nail
Okay.
on the head.
Okay. John and Faye, want to share a turning point for you?
I think the turning point for me was when I looked and I realized that he wasn't there to hurt us, but he was there as my husband to take his rightful position and lead our family. And then I learned to kind of fall in submission to that and just watch him. And I knew that he did nothing to hurt us, but he was always there to support us and to make the best of what we had.
Good.
So it
Good.
was just a level of me just saying, you know what, let him do what God has called him to do as my husband. And I'm not the husband, I'm not the mother and the father.
Yeah. Good. Anything you want to add, John?
Yeah, sometimes, Pastor, you don't know how much you appreciate a person until something happens. And I remember we was over my mother's house, and my wife, she was on the rail, and there's a basement, and it's about 6 feet down, and they got walls on both sides, and the rail end up giving out, and my wife went down, and thank God that she didn't break her neck, because it had 2 walls on each side. God put her in a position where she went straight down and didn't hit nothing on the side as she was falling down. And that right there broke me up, because I was just thanking God for my wife still here, and that right there kind of turned things around for me as you need to appreciate her more because this could have went a different way.
Right.
She could have bust her head. She could have, anything could have happened as she was because she fell so far down. And that right there, to me, you know what? Maybe you don't appreciate her enough. So, now that this had happened, now I had to look at it in a different way. So again, that's why, yeah, she might tease me, but I'm good with it. She might pick with me, but I'm good with it, because that's what she do when it comes down to me being quiet or me being studying the word, and she be like, no, I need some attention. So I'm gonna pick with you till you stop doing what you're doing and pay me some attention. So again, I appreciate my wife, and I think, sometimes we don't appreciate each other enough. We get so comfortable, our thank yous get low, which we need to do that all the time. Let them know we really appreciate what you're doing, and
Right.
That's something that I really start, even if I have to send her a text, just to let her know I appreciate her. Every time she cooked dinner for me, I kiss her and say, thank you, baby, or if I forget, I text her, in the morning to let her know I appreciate what you cooked last night. So just things like that to keep her, letting her know she appreciated. So
Good. Talita, your son wants to know, how has your marriage benefited from having such a wonderful son?
Woo.
Um,
Some of those years was rough.
yeah. So
But he
Deon,
brought joy to my life. Just let him know
yeah.
you brought joy to my life, son.
Minister Hall asked, do you feel like since you've grown in your marriage that your disagreements have changed?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Since we've grown, they are shorter. We come together quicker and communicate and talk it out and pray it out, and we get over it easily, get through it, so it's not
Just let
swept under the rug. We deal with it, but we deal with it a lot sooner than we used to, because like Carol and Craig, it used to be weeks. We could go weeks just grunting at each other or answering short, if it had something to do with the kids. But yeah, now it's definitely a lot different.
Yeah.
We waking up in the morning saying morning, and that was it. And nothing
So
else
do
to
you
say.
want to be able to say,
Morning.
bro?
I didn't say morning.
Sure did.
She
Yeah,
could
I
at least
messed
get
up.
morning out me. She could get morning. It wasn't much more than that, but
hey, Baz, I know what I do in the morning. You can be mad all you want, but I'm gonna keep kissing you. When it's time for me to leave out the house, I'm gonna kiss her till she ain't ready to take it no more. Just to let her know how much I love you. I'm gonna keep kissing you. She was, get off me. And then, but again, just to break up that monopoly, and let her know, nah, we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that.
So Talita, this question is for you from Della Hatcher. In the beginning, when pastor was called as a pastor, was that hard for you knowing that eyes would be on you differently as a first lady? Did you have to change how you presented, or did you stay the same?
It was hard in my mind. I was thinking it was going to be hard. But because I knew me, and
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was a nice person, a decent person. I wasn't ghetto and raunchy or anything like that. So I didn't feel like I needed to change. And I would always ask Pastor, what do you think about this? If I felt, anybody might look at me a little funny or anything might be weird, I would ask him, what do you think? Because I always wanted to know God's opinion first, and then my pastor's opinion over anybody else. But then I found that as we got the edge where people accepted me like I was, and here at Southern Friendship, people are accepting me. And so I'm really grateful, for that. So I really didn't have to do any changing. Not a
Now,
whole
I
lot of
will.
changing. God was already working in me, making me to who he wanted to be me to be. But I knew what came with being a
Yeah,
pastor's wife, that
yeah,
people would
yeah.
look up to me, people would have eyes on me. So I make sure that I'm the best representative of a first lady as I can be.
Now, I did need to defend you because there were people who felt like they could impose on you that you supposed to sit in a certain place and you got to do
Oh,
whatever. There was even this thing of when she going to join our church. And I'm saying, you think my wife going to walk down the aisle? I came here to be the pastor and my wife has to officially walk down the aisle. I'm not letting her do that. She ain't doing it. If you ain't making me do it as a senior pastor, I'm not walking down the aisle to join this church. You ain't making my wife do that. Right?
yeah.
So I'm here as a member of this church without walking down an aisle on a Sunday. You're not going to do that to her. I'm not going to let you do that to her. Right? And so I wanted her to be clear. Anything that somebody tries to put on you as an expectation, you let me know if you're not comfortable with it. I don't want to see you in no church hat if you don't want to wear a church hat. I don't want to see you conforming because people have these expectations of you. So a part of that was they weren't overly demanding of what they expected of her, but then um, I wouldn't let them do anything that I thought she didn't have to live up to um, anyway.
And
Now,
sometimes it was the opposite where they felt like I shouldn't do anything.
yeah,
I
right.
shouldn't serve. I shouldn't teach the kids. At one time, I was on a hospitality ministry. People were having a fit that they saw me serving food and doing. I'm like, I'm a server. I'm not going to be sitting there waiting for people to serve me. God calls us to be servants, and I have work to do. I have gifts to be used. So,
Yeah. There's a Josh Headley who asked a question. He's in a long-term relationship, a long-distance relationship, and she wants to live together for a while before they get married. What does the Lord say about that since we haven't had much one-on-one together to bridge the in-person gap? I'll take the lead on that. No, you do not live with her if you want to honor the Lord. And if you want the Lord to honor your marriage, then you honor the Lord in your dating and in your courting. You don't need test drives and you don't need any samples, right? If you're making a commitment to the person, you want to get to know them spiritually, you want to get to know them emotionally, you want to get to know them intimately in other ways before you get to know them intimately physically. Because if I know you spiritually and I know you emotionally, I know you psychologically, then me knowing you physically will work because you are madly in love with the person. The physical relationship has to work. So that one of the worst mistakes you can make is entertaining a physical relationship before you have made a commitment to one another. That is a lifelong commitment. And I know that there are sometimes men who are trying to honor women as the women of God, and the women are putting the pressure on the men. It used to be a day when men were the only ones putting pressure on women. And I've had many of young men explain to me that it is the women now putting the pressure on. Are you gay? All of this and you don't want it, and all of those types of things. So I think you have to be a strong man that says, I want it, but I'm going to do right by God and I'm going to do right by you, and I'm not going to ask you to sin in order to take care of me. And so I think you date, you have intimate time with one another, but you have chaperones, and you make sure that you're only with one another in public, and you make sure that people know where you are. And I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time around each other without any accountability. Who knows where you are? You know, Flying around the world together and thinking you're not going to be sexually active. If you fly to Cancun together, you're playing with fire. So I would just say, as much as you can, get to know one another. And as quickly as you know that this person should be my spouse, marry him.
Mhm.
You know,
Have
this dating
counseling.
for,
Get
yeah,
counseling and
yeah,
marry
get
him.
Right.
counseling, but marry him. But this
That's
this
it.
dating for 5 years and trying to remain celibate is
Yeah,
a bad
not good.
combination. It
Right.
doesn't really work. So you're dating to get to know the person, and as soon as you know, yes, you're the type of person I should marry, get you some counseling, and then schedule a wedding date just as quickly as you can. So do whatever you can to get your wedding so that you can begin to do the intimate stuff that you want to do and honor God at the same time. We're about 2 minutes past the end of our study, so even though we didn't crack a Bible open tonight, I do think that this was helpful for our congregation. Craig and Carol, anything that you want to share as we wrap up?
Um, what you just shared, getting to know your partner before you make that physical contact, because once you get physical, all bets are off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all bets are off. You got tunnel vision at that point, and nothing else matters at that point to you because you feel this is it. But getting to know a person's mental state, mental being, knowing that person as a whole and spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
get in the word with that person. You got the Lord in your life, the temptations, they're gonna come, but you'll be able to deal with them with the Lord on your side. Trying to be out there by yourself, that's playing with fire.
Yeah. Um, Paulette asked a question that I overlooked. It says, while you are all married, how can you improve your marriage? You got a quick answer to that?
Um, yeah, stay in the word and keep lines of communications open.
I think that's the key, communication.
Yeah, it's
And listening to each other and then being willing to put the other person's needs first over yours. I think that's very important. Compromising is very important.
Yeah, I find that the compromise, but um, this book here, you probably can't see it, but this book has helped me. It's a book called Pastoral Intelligence, and it has caused me to really pay attention to not only what a person is saying, but what do they mean? What are the emotions that they feel when they say what they feel? So I'm learning how to not be so critical of what my wife says, but trying to understand, well, why does she say that? So, um, and even after 32 years, soon to be 33 years, we still have room to work on our relationship. She stuck with me until I die. I don't plan on dying for another 20 to 25 years, but she stuck with me, and if I have my way, I'm gonna live at least into my 80s, and then whatever the Lord gives me after that will be on Him. But if we figure out how to just talk to one another better, I think that's the room for improvement. That I think is a great question, Paulette. But I think that might be. I don't know a couple who's married who ain't looking for how they can get their marriage better. But
oh yeah.
yeah,
And I,
Talita, you have any parting pieces before we wrap up, and then I'll go to Jay, the Kellys.
Beatrice, you can say what you wanted to say before you forget.
oh, I was gonna say, always love your spouse even when you think that they don't deserve it, because Christ always loves us when we don't deserve it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
John, did you have anything?
Yeah. Again, love is a choice. It's not so much of a feeling. You know, we think about when Christ went to the cross, it's because he loved us. Just think about if he felt the feeling that he had for us. You think with how we are now, you think he would have went to the cross? No, he went to the cross because it was a choice, because he loved us. And that's how we have to do when it comes down to our spouse as well. So love them even though you don't feel like love them anyway.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
Sometimes it ain't always easy loving them, but love them anyway. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Minister Hall, I really did. We've got some long-term marriages in our church, over 50 years and over 40 years, and I couldn't convince any of them to be a part of us. So we will definitely, now that I thought this would be a hit as far as the interest. Um, I'm learning now that the more practical the lessons are, the more people are gravitate towards it. So, but I do know that being transparent and not acting like we always are madly in love with each other, that have been those seasons where it's just been ridiculously hard. Um, but the sustaining grace of God helps us to get through it. Um, so we will definitely look at being able to put on a panel again, and maybe next time we put together a panel of couples that are under 20 years.
Yeah, with
And
children
maybe,
and going through
yeah,
that stage.
right,
Yeah.
because all of us are now empty nesters with ain't nobody in the house, and but so thank you very much. So on behalf of Southern Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, let me, on behalf of all of our congregation, thank you for agreeing to be a part of our panel tonight, and giving us a peek behind the curtain to see, what does it take to have a successful marriage, and your transparency has helped us greatly tonight. So thank you, panel, for you joining us tonight, and thank you to all of our congregation, and I even see friends of Southern Friendship who were joining with us tonight, and I'm grateful. I would highly recommend that if you're married, that you would join the marriage ministry of our church, because we do great discussions and spend time together with other married couples that would strengthen us. And so I know it's a sacrifice, but I would say, even if you are not a covenant partner at Southern Friendship, you can participate in our marriage ministry events. So thank you all. I'm grateful for your participation. I want to pray as we get ready to go. Lord, we bless you for the institution of marriage. We're grateful, Lord, for the Kellys. We're grateful, Lord, for the Marshalls. We're grateful, oh God, for the Grayton household. I pray, oh God, that you would pour out your blessing on these three marriages and then on all of our marriages. And I pray, oh God, that young man who wants to be married, that young woman who wants to be married, has some more things to consider as they press their way toward a marriage covenant. We ask, God, your blessing over everybody that's under the sound of my voice. In Jesus' name,
Jesus'
amen.
name. Amen.
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 good
Amen.
night,
All
good
right.
night.
And we thank you
All
all,
right.
Pastor, for
Good night.
God
inviting
bless
me.
you.
Good night.
Yes.
Hit the
Yeah.
button.